This video is going to walk you through the container exercise. And the container exercise is a really nice technique that we can utilize whenever there's something that's going on that is bothering us. And maybe we're not in the place to be able to really address it or manage it in that moment. It could be an intrusive thought or memory or flashback about a memory. It could be a bothersome emotion. Anything that's getting in the way of us moving forward and doing what we need to do in our day. Now, this exercise can be really powerful. So it's important that whatever you put in the container, you at some point take it back out to address it. That could be with a mental health provider, that could be on your own, journaling, with peer support, a spouse, a best friend, however it is. So just know that this is a temporary exercise, but that anything you put in it really should be addressed at some point. The other thing to note about the container is that when we first start using it, it's going to feel clunky. Whatever you put in it might come out really easily. So it's like going to the gym. If you haven't been in a few years, you can't expect to go back in and lift a whole bunch of weights, right? You got to start small and build up. And so what can be really important is that if whatever you're putting in it is coming out, you gently put it back in. And I get a little silly with this, but I find it's really important to be nice to whatever you're putting back in there, even if it's something really distressing or bothersome from your past, because in the end, that's part of you. And so whenever we create an adversarial relationship with, anything related to us, it's going to create some more internal conflict. And so what I encourage people to do is have the inside of their container be cozy or comfortable for whatever they're putting in it. And if that thing keeps coming back out, such as, let's say it's an image from a memory in the past, you actually really imagine it and be like, oh, hey, okay, we're going to go back in the container. And you gently put it back in. Imagine closing your container. And if it comes out again, you do the same thing. Just like those old, you ever watch those shows, Nanny 911, with timeouts with kids and putting the kid back? It's very similar, but we don't want to be mean to the kid or to our thoughts or the images, whatever it is that we are putting in that container. And so you can even ask whatever you're putting in there, what it needs in that moment. And again, this is where you can get really creative. You can be like, oh, what do you need? A Starbucks coffee. Okay. So imagine putting whatever you are in there and giving a little Starbucks coffee, maybe a weighted blanket, whatever it needs. Okay. So let me walk through it with you. So get nice and comfortable in your seat. I find it can be nice for people to close their eyes during this exercise, but you don't have to. But what I want you to do is to imagine a container that you can put an image, a memory, an emotion, whatever it is that you need into it for safekeeping. And this container can be something that is completely made up, or it could be something real. So here's an example of a real container. I used to have this in my therapy office when I was in person. It's a little container, and you see that little latch, and you can put stuff in it. So some people find it helpful to actually have a physical container, and then they can write down whatever it is that they want to put in there. They can take objects that signify it, whatever works for you. And so if you're using a real container, just imagine it as I walk through this exercise. But you could also just create anything. I've had people create mason jars, boxes in the middle of the ocean, treasure chests, containers in the sky. And really, it's whatever comes up for you. And so just take a moment to notice what your container might be. And as you imagine that container, notice, how big is it? Notice what material it's made out of. Imagine touching that container and notice what the texture on the outside of it is. Open the container and notice, what does the inside look like? Remembering that you can use your imagination. Put whatever you want inside of it. And it can look however you'd like on the inside or the outside. Notice what color your container is. Notice as you touch the container, what is the temperature of it? Really just allow yourself to visualize this container that you can put anything that's upsetting in for safekeeping for a later time. And I want you just to take a moment to practice this. So take a look at your container and open it up, however that lid or opening may look like. And imagine putting something that's just a little annoying in there. Something tiny. Really imagine taking this thing from yourself and placing it inside that container. And once it's in there, notice shutting that lid or the clasp. Really visualize how your container shuts and close it. So that thing, a little upsetting, nice and safe in there for a later time. There you have it. You have a nice container that you can use with you. Take it with you, use it at any point to fit anything needed in there. And remember, we do want you to, at some point, take whatever's in there out to be able to work through it or process it. But this is just a little technique that can help in those moments when needed.